All right, my name is Daryl Martin. I want to welcome you today to this presentation on. We're going to go into spread foundations. We're going to talk about proximity on Nadex call spreads or Nadex spreads. And this is one of the things that traders, especially when they get into spreads to begin with, don't understand at all. And I've found that some that have even been trading them for a year or two still don't understand. So I want to make sure that you really, really get proximity and understand what it is and how it works. Okay? And we're going to do a lot of visual stuff on this one as well. So proximity. What is proximity? Well, the closer the proximity is, the higher the gamma is. Remember, the higher the gamma is, the higher the delta is. But what it really comes down to is proximity means you're buying or selling. If it's positive proximity, you're buying or selling, like above or below the market. Okay? And negative proximity means buying or selling, below the market. So you'll see that on, the scanner itself. And it can move slower based on the size of that number. So the larger the proximity is, the slower the spread price will move. The larger the proximity number is on the scanner there, the slower it will move. And remember, we got near the market, we got at the money, in the spread, deep in the spread, all these spreads. And the closer you get to the floor of the ceiling, the slower they move. We've talked about that. And the middle 40% of the spread usually moves faster, closer to a 1-to-1. And I'm going to talk about this again more when we get into speed. But I want you to really start getting this idea of like that middle percent moves faster. Okay? And then, when you get out of on the edge, it moves like at 30%. And the wider it is, the faster it moves, the closer to 1-to-1. And this is really, really important that you understand that a wide spread will move faster. A wider spread will move faster. So when you're trying to mirror the underlying market, okay, the longer the expiration is, often the or really in most, pretty much every case, the faster it will move. The longer it will move faster, because it will slow down as it gets further away from the center. Okay? Now, it does come down to how the spread is built. And the one I want to put a big flag up for you on, okay, I got an asterisk right there, is NASDAQ. NASDAQ currently moves really slow because it's ticking in 0.1 currently. Now, if they change that to 0.25, it'll start and they widen it out, it'll start ticking a lot faster, okay? It'll move faster. But right now, you'll almost always see high proximity. And even if you see zero proximity at the center, which is something we'll be talking about, then you'll still see it slow down as it moves away. Okay? Unless there's like no IV for some odd reason, things can change. But just as a general rule, to understand NASDAQ, if it's still ticking in 0.1 when you watch this video on the call spreads, then it's probably going to be moving slow. Okay? So it's probably the hardest spread to trade directionally on Nadex currently. And so I'm sort of hampering on that because some people hop right to NASDAQ. And it's, if you want to trade it on Nadex, probably want to go to the touch brackets. Okay? So the NASDAQ spreads on Nadex are better for those who are, more into advanced premium collection, things like that. Which we're not diving into that in depth, but we'll talk about it a little bit in the premium section. So, just like a binary can move slower once it gets, in the 90s, lower risk spreads will move slower. Okay? Again, lower risk spreads will move slower. Now, you may not need any stop on a low risk spread. And understand the price will speed up as it approaches the price of the actual futures. It approaches the center of the spread. Okay? And that, again, all comes back to your Greeks. All right? Now, to make this easy, on the scanner, you'll see there's a proximity section. Okay? And like 20 ticks away from where the market's at. 7 ticks away. 5 ticks away from where the market is. Okay? And so it'll have the indicative up here, and it'll have this price over here. And it's, by the way, the ticks are an underlying ticks. So the NASDAQ ticks in quarters. And if you ever want to look on the scanner to find out what things tick in, you can use this little chain link right here. It'll open up. It'll tell you what things tick in. Okay? Also, the spread tick size, actually, the underlying tick size is currently 0.1. We're hoping they're going to update that to 0.25. It's currently 0.1, and the underlying tick size is 0.25. And if you just click on that, it'll actually give you that update. Okay, but again, proximity is right here. It tells you the higher that number is, the lower that number is. Now, lower being close to 0. Okay, negative 35, it's going to move slow. Positive 27, it's going to move slow. Okay, so, and again, that all comes down to where's the bid offer in relation to the underlying indicative index there? Where's the bid offer in relation to the underlying indicative index? So let me show you what I mean. Okay? So you know where to find the number easily that does the math for you instantly. Okay? So now let's go into what I'm talking about. And again, I do want to show you some examples in this section. Okay? So what I'm going to do is go into like what each thing is again and talk a little bit more about it, and then after each section I'll show you an example of the underlying compared to the bid offer in order for you to be able to see the proximity. Okay? So OTM and DOTM means nothing to you as like what's called out of the money and deep out of the money. Doesn't mean anything to you as a spread trader. Okay? So we're going to talk about OTS, out of the spread. There's no deep out of the spread. Because if you're deep, you're deep in the spread. All right? So if you bought to go long and the underlying is below the floor, the contract is OTS, out of the spread. If you sold to go short and the underlying is above the ceiling, the contract is out of the spread. So the underlying is a far distance away from the spread's bid offer. So the spread will move slower. And you'll need a pretty decent trending market to make any money on an out of the spread contract to build a profit. So don't be fooled, because one of the number one things people do is they go, wow, the risk on that one's $10. Because that's the first thing they learn about spreads. Low risk. Don't get stopped out, right? Remember I said that's not all there is to it. And so they see that $10 and they're like, that's the one I want. And then they're like, man, the market moved like 30 points and it didn't even, like I didn't make a dime. Don't be fooled simply by the risk reward. Okay? There's more to it. So let me show you a visual representation here. Notice out of the spread, the underlying market is 2060. It is below, the euro dollar is below the floor ceiling, or the floor, I'm sorry, is below the floor of the spread on a buy side. Notice that the price is at 21.30. Okay? To buy. The price to buy the spread is at 21.30, the offer side, right? The underlying is at 2060. That's 70 ticks away. So yes, the risk may only be $10, 21.30 minus 21.20, but it's 70 ticks away. It's barely going to move. It's going to have that low delta. It's below the floor, so it's even less than 50. It may be like 10 or 20. So the underlying market may move 10 points. This thing may move 1 or 2. It may move 10 pips. It may move 1 or 2 pips. All right? So it's going to have to move quite a bit because it's out of the spread. So yes, the risk is really low, but it has a 70 tick proximity being 21.30 minus 20.60. Okay? Big proximity, going to move slow. Why? Because it's out of the spread. The underlying market's below the floor. Now, if I flip that around and do the same thing on the sell side, okay? The market's at 22.40. I'm looking to sell. It's like over there at 22.09. Okay, so in this case, we got 22.40. I mean, that's 20 pips above the ceiling. Okay, and about 30, a little 30 pips above the actual sell price. So it's got 30 pips. It's got to move. It's above the ceiling, so the delta is less than 50 on a sell. Okay? So, understanding that it's less than, it's going to move slower than 50%. Quite a bit slower the higher that proximity is. All right? So, really important on that proximity, that big proximity number. And then out of the spread contracts are going to move really, really, really slow. So now if it's at the money, if it's at the strike, could happen at two locations, right? It could be at the floor or the ceiling on a spread. Then the delta is going to be at 50, which means the spread is going to move at 50% of the underlying market. So, again, another example for you. If the market's at 22.20, okay, and let's say the premium's lower or whatever, it's at 21.19, it's 10, it's right there. Hold on one second. Let me check this. There we go. That price makes a little more sense. But let's say it's moved on down. The underlying market has moved down on the sell side, okay, to 22.20. So it's at the money, right? It's at the strike price. It's only going to be moving at 50%. But notice that the bid offer is different. It's still different, right? So the underlying market's at 22.20. The sell on this is at 2200. So it's still got 20 ticks of proximity. Lower proximity means not at 1-to-1, right? Like it's a little better than it was before. It's not 70 pips away, or 30 pips away or whatever, but it's 20 pips away, but it's still not going to move at a 1-to-1. It being at the floor ceiling right at it, it's going to move at 50%. So if the underlying market drops down 10 ticks, you're going to see a 5-tick move on the bid off on the spread itself. Okay? Again, you only see a $5 move on the spread itself if you see like the underlying market move 10 ticks. And that doesn't account, your bid offer as well. So you may only see the bid offer get covered in a 10-tick move on this. Okay? So just depending upon what the bid offer is at, the moment on that contract. Same thing on a buy side. So you go in, buy it. If it's at the floor, okay, the delta is going to be 50. Floor or ceiling, buy or sell, doesn't matter. Delta's going to be at 50. It's going to be slow. It's going to move really slow. Okay? So this market, you go in, you hop in, market moves 10 ticks, you're going to see like a 5-tick move on the spread itself. So understand that. Now, what about in the spread? What if you get inside? Well, as you get inside the spread, then the underlying market is trading between the floor and ceiling, and things are going to speed up a little bit. Okay? Now, you're probably still going to see some proximity. Now, sometimes you won't. And if you don't, that's great. That means that it's going to move fast. Okay? But maybe it's only, 10 or 15 ticks off in this case. So if the underlying's moving up, it's getting closer to that bid offer where it's at on the spread. So, but there's still a little bit of a difference. All right? Same thing on the sell side. It's getting closer to where it is. Maybe it's only 15 ticks away now versus 20 ticks away. So maybe you're at a 60 delta now. All right, you're in the spread. The underlying market is in between the floor and ceiling. It's going to start speeding up as the underlying gets closer to the center of the floor and ceiling. And buy spread is going to work the same way. Okay, so let's say you're buying it and the market's moving up. You may even see a negative proximity. You may see where you can buy below. And we'll talk about some reasons for that and advantages for that later. But you could actually end up buying below the market. Or if you're selling in the spread, you may be able to sell above the market with the proximity. Sell higher than where the market is, which can be pretty cool. Okay? Now, obviously, the easiest spread to trade is going to be the one that's trading at the same price as the underlying market. It's called the near the market spread. There's really no or little extrinsic value, but it doesn't last as the spread moves. So there's no such thing as like a null spread, as it's always in a state of flux. It's not the cheapest in premium, as you can get premium positive trades where you can make premium, which is better than no premium at all if you want to collect premium. But what it comes down to is you want, near the market spreads move faster. So the closer the underlying market is to the bidder offer, the lower the proximity is, the faster, the higher the delta is. And it also can be fast. The wider it is, the longer it can stay in that middle 40% we talked about earlier. Okay, in one of the previous videos there. And it'll stay near the market longer. So the wider your spread is, the longer it will keep that proximity closer to 100 when you're near the middle. Okay? So just keep that in case. You can look at these smaller spreads, but they don't move as fast in most cases. So you want to look at the proximity on all the spreads to see how fast it's moving. If you see proximity climbing drastically on different spreads in that same expiration, then you're going to know it's going to slow down more. Okay? If you want to mirror the market, you want to choose the near the market daily or master spread. It's just the easiest one to choose. And we'll talk about that a little bit in risk reward and stuff as well, about some things that you need to take into consideration there, that maybe you're picking the wrong spread for the wrong reason and not knowing that you're actually risking more, not less, by making it harder. So the underlying does not need to be in the center, just close to the bid offer, which is the proximity. Okay? So any market condition, you can trade the underlying outright. So it's just like trading the underlying outright if it's right near the floor ceiling, which is really cool. Now, high IV can really impact the ability of the spread to remain near the market. And I'm going to show you some pretty extreme examples in one of the later videos when we go into speed. But that IV can really impact, like it may be near the market like right now, but it may move and you may not even see the spread move. Why? Because on that market, expected movement is so high, the extrinsic value is just through the roof. But again, if you look at the multiple spreads inside that same expiration, you see low proximity, hey, it's actually moving. Near the market contracts, again, those are ones that are trading at the same as the floor or ceiling, whether you're buying it or whether you're selling it. Okay? So pretty simple. Again, now a reminder, the less implied volatility, the less time, the closer to the center, any of those, or all of them, or more of them, will make that spread move faster, move closer to a delta of 100, higher gamma, and will make it where it will mirror the underlying market more. Now, let's talk about deep in the spread. Now, deep in the money is a term you may hear as an option trader, but as a Nadex spread trader, it means nothing to you. What does mean something to you is deep in the spread. So you bought to be, long, and the underlying market price is above the spread or ceiling, or you've sold to be short, and the underlying market is below the spread floor. Now, obviously, again, if it's above or below the spread floor or ceiling, it's going to move less than 50%. So, and it could be a cool trade to do. It could be a positive premium trade that you want to do. Just to understand, it's going to move slow. So you're going to see it. It may move at 10% of the underlying market. You may see the underlying market move 10 ticks, and it may move 1 if it's deep in the spread. So it's really important to know what spread you're choosing. So let's say that your dollar is above the ceiling, okay, and you can buy for 22.10. Well, hey, you're buying for 30 ticks below where the market is. That's pretty sweet. Just understand, you're not going to make that 10 ticks in a 10-tick move when the market moves up. Okay? So it's very important that you get that. Now, what about if you sell? Well, if you sell a deep in the spread contract, same thing. So let's say you go over here and you sell it for, 22 or 21. Let me fix that 1 second. Yeah. So if you sell it for like $9 above the floor, and I mean, that looks great because, it's like 70 ticks away from where the market is. And that could be great. It could be an easy $10 to make. But just understand, the market will, the spread price itself will move really slow. Slow for you and slow against you. Okay? Because it's so far, out, or so deep in the spread. The underlying market is below the floor when you're selling. All right, this is one of those videos you may need to watch a couple times over. But again, remember I told you I was going to show you these in the money, at the money, in the market, in the spreads, deep in the spreads, at the money, all that stuff over and over again. We're going to build on it, build on it, build on it. So make sure you have this down. Watch it again if you need to. And ask questions if you need to. And then, of course, we'll, just keep digging in a little bit deeper. All right? And just make sure you understand, that proximity. Where is the market when you're doing these trades? All right? All right. My name is Daryl Martin, and thank you again for joining us for this presentation at apexinvesting.com. And make sure to check out the other videos that we have for you to help you learn how to trade Nadex spreads and futures and forex contracts.